Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are at episode 10, and welcome to One Day Today. We are going strong. I think this is week 3, and we've had almost 40 guests so far, and every story that's shared has been just amazing. And it's been I'm just amazed at the response we're getting, and just how many courageous, amazing people are just here to share and to contribute to us all. And today is no exception. We have 2 amazing guests. I'm really looking forward to hearing them share. First, I'd like to introduce Matthew, my co-host. Matthew, how's it going today, buddy?
Doing lovely, Abram. How about yourself?
Doing great. It's a beautiful day here in Nashville. Can't complain too much. It's been a little rainy and crazy with the weather, and I've been gardening and getting some nice gardening in, and that was a little bit distracted because of the rain. But doing well today.
Good to hear. It's gorgeous here too. I actually had to go outside and just walk barefoot for a while today, just all the way up the hill and back down. And I missed that a lot, like just being outside barefoot, But enough about us. Why don't you tell us about our 2 guests today? Who do we have joining us?
First up, we have Sabrina Runbeck. Sabrina,
Hey
thank you
guys.
for joining us. Hello.
How's it going, Sabrina?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm
We're
so
glad
happy
to
you're
be
here
here.
to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown about what you're going to be sharing about, and then we'll give you the stage here in a second.
Awesome. So I am a surgical advanced practice provider and a public health practitioner, as well as a peak performance coach and speaker. I help millennial professionals with demanding careers, but feeling like they're overwhelmed, underappreciated, and sometimes misunderstood to reduce stress, restore wellness, and reboot their efficiency. Then we can truly be both powerful and passionate in life.
I could use some of that right now.
Right. Perfect. Sign me up.
Right.
Well, awesome. We're so happy to have you, Sabrina. But without further ado, the stage is yours.
Great. Thanks everyone for listening. I want to take you back to what I experienced about 4.5 years ago. I was standing there in front of the patient with my hands inside his open chest. I was fully gowned and gloved, attempting with all that I had to get through this open heart surgery I was performing with my attending physician while having a fever of 101 degrees. My head was pounding and my body felt so weak that everything was moving super slowly. And zzz, 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 the beeper that was paging me all night just went off again. That loud noise just made my exhaustion that much harder to hide. Fortunately, one of my nurses was so nice and kept passing Dayquils and cough drops under my mask to keep me going. I was so appreciative for her kindness. But unfortunately, when I woke up the next morning, I can barely get out of bed. I had to call my manager. Picked up the phone. Hey, Mike, I just can't do it. Fever's not any better. Couldn't make it. And his response was, how come you're just telling me this now? Don't make a habit out of this. So imagine how frustrated I was at the time. Well, I was pushing myself just to see if I can really make it. And we're proud to say we value in medicine excellence, advocate for our patients, make sure you deliver everything for the best as you can for others. But we're not truly viewing ourselves with any of these values. And I was treated just like a human machine. Then a few weeks later, I treated a young man who required his 4th open heart surgery. He had an infection in one of his heart valves. He failed to report these symptoms that he thought were small and insignificant. And that's when I realized I did have these small and insignificant issues in my own life that I had to address before I too become a patient. Now, I used to say yes to almost everything because society teaches us to be polite so we can be liked by everyone. However, when we say yes to the things that do not align with our core value, then we might become resentful, unable to deliver quality results, or keep our promises with our family, friends, or work. I believe that many young professionals are working in areas that are passionate about share similar struggles. We all work very hard to get to where we are right now. We did not do it just to hate what we're doing or drop everything and jump ship to something completely new. And that's when I realized I have to face my truth. Even though we push myself into this career where it looked great on the outside, but am I truly satisfied in the place I am right now for the rest of my life? And when that answer was no for me, then I went back to my root in neuroscience and public health. I would create a simple system called say no to stress and say yes to stamina. I turned my life around and love working in surgery again. I still work full time and also help other ambitious millennials to be able to have a life full of heck yes. So they can wake up feeling excited while rising up as leaders in their field. So in the next 10 minutes, let me share with you what those 3 steps are. And our number 1 step is to say no to vagueness. Then you can truly dream big and achieve more. Unfortunately, people cannot read our minds. So when we have a clear purpose and able to share well with others, then they can support us to help us get to that goal, building an army of walking ambassadors. So let me ask you a simple question. What was the most common question you were asked when you were a child? All right, minutes up. What was it? What do you want to do when you grow up? Do you really feel like that's a fair question to ask a child? Even in your when you get to college, we have not truly experienced the world into different assets. And everything that we know is from our parents, our teachers, our friends, and everything that we absorb in media. How can we know truly what we want to do? And that doing part is only what? A goal that is a means goal, not an end goal. So, what would be the correct answer to ask the younger self? It should have been, what type of lifestyle would you like to have when you grow up? And then we can see our end future and connect to that future, then reverse engineering things to do and build ourselves into that future that we want to have. And then once you have this end goal, you can create an internal compass to guide you. We are no longer picking multiple routes, multiple pathways, and figuring out halfway that's not where we want to go in life and keep derailing. Let's not waste time. Do things right. So people will ask me, Sabrina, how do we even get there? My simple 1 step is write a 1 sentence purpose statement before you start anything. A new project, new career, or even just relationship. What do you truly want? What's that purpose? What's your why? And then you can tie into the how and what. All right, our second step is say no to negative thoughts so you can reclaim your mental power. The I'm passive, I can't attitude generates the power and skills needed to overcome all these obstacles in life. And now we're halfway to my talk. How do you feel? Do you feel great, awesome, wonderful, brilliant? Do you feel that way all the time? Well, let me clarify with you. I feel I am awesome. And I feel like I'm always going to be awesome. Before you feel like I'm a little bit self-conceived, let me explain this. I think you're awesome as well. Maybe you don't remember how awesome you are. Guess what? When we were born pure, without the constraint, without the conformity that make us someone that creates judgment. And let me share with you a quick story. When I was in high school, I remember this one time I barely sat down in my calculus class. See, it's not even warm yet, right? I'm still chatting with my friends. And my teacher keep passing out our quiz. Now I'm really sweating. My heart start racing and I'm like, oh my God, I start looking down and now I don't look at anybody else. And once I saw that score inside that red circle, I was shocked and I was bawling. And me crying, not pretty. And guess what was that score was? It was only an 82. So some of you might think it's pretty good. It's a B minus. Big deal. One quiz. Not gonna end your life. Well, that's easy to say now. But at that time, my self-sabotager was a high achiever. Means anything I want to do, start attach myself to that next level. If I am not getting an A, if I'm not able to do that, I'm someone less worthy. I'm someone not of value. Can you relate to that? When you're seeking the next high, next level, it seems like never enough. Sometimes when we can accomplish even just 70%, 80% off your to-do list, off your goal list, that 70 and 80% should still be rewarded, still be valued. And then we can refocus and seeing how we can accomplish the rest of them, right? So one of the part, what is by my training in positive intelligence and even functional MRI has shown that when you have one negative thoughts, it does take at least 3 positive ones to overcome. So would you allow yourself to control your own mind, or you allow your mind to control you? Would you allow the sabotagers, what I call my little inner bunny, right? Like the one just hop around, skip the danger, right? And instead of my inner leopard, so whatever animal that you can connect that powerful side, right? The sage in positive intelligence side of us, when we can reconnect with our brain, change our neural circuitry, then you can go even higher level up. And the way that I teach some of my clients, when they ask, the easiest way actually is when you wake up, start on a good note. How do we do that? It's by saying one positive thing about yourself out loud. So something you can do is just write down 3 to 5 things that you truly believe in yourself and love about yourself, and just pick one of those and say it to yourself tomorrow morning in front of a mirror and truly believe in those messages. All right, our third step is to say no to putting self-care last. Taking care of yourself first will allow you to give the best of you, not what's left of you. When we can give ourselves, right, instead of just pushing and pushing, then our focus and allow ourselves to be more calm. So how many percentage do you think you actually be able to concentrate all the time on the task at hand, not think about anything else? 2, 3, 4, 50, 60, 70, 80? Most statistics will tell you can only focus what you have right now about 40% or less. These negative thoughts, these mental chatter that's from previous event will always bombard us. And how do we reboot our energy so we're no longer crashing in the afternoon? Self-care is not just going to the gym, eat well, able to travel, hang out with friends. It's the intentionality throughout these exercise so you can continue to grow and move forward. And what that means is you will put your feet on the ground, allow this central channel breath of energy, inhale 6 counts, hold it for 3 counts, exhale 6 counts up and down. Once you do 2 rounds of this And then you can use a simple sensation, just touch your fingertip slowly up and down the other ones, and then do it for 2 minutes with your eyes closed. Before you open your eyes, tell yourself what's the intention for the next task. And now you can wake up more fresh and focused. And you would want to do that frequently throughout the day to boost yourself. All right, so what do we need to win? To create this peak performance life, truly have power and passion? Number one, repeat it with me. Say no to vagueness. Number two, say no to negative thoughts. Number three, say no to putting self-care last. Perfect. All right. I believe that we all have the inner ability to be both powerhouses in our career and passionate people in life. And to get there, you have to know your strengths and weaknesses. So go to sabrinarunbeck.com/assessment to take a free 3-minute assessment to tell you and figure out what are these hidden roadblocks that you have right now that you're not able to move forward. And then I will give you a personalized voice memo of result through social media. So where do we go from here? You got all these resources and little tips. And I want to tell you that now my version of life full of heck yes means I used to say no to go to the gym, missing out on my workout classes. Now I can squat 225 pounds. It's like putting LeBron James across my shoulder and squat him. I used to rush out the house in the morning. Now I wake up listening to Sabrina's Energy playlist. I used to feel exhausted all the time. And now I can reboot my energy instantly and able to help other young professionals to do the same. May I ask you, what does a life full of heck yes look like for you? Thanks you guys for listening.
Thank you, Sabrina, for sharing. Really appreciate you sharing with us. I had a thought question. What was there a point, or is there an experience or something? Like what led you or empowered you to be able to empower others? Like was there something that led that pointed you to your own power, to your own overcoming all those those the negativity, the negative thought patterns and the feedback loop? Like was there something that you went through that pointed you to where you are now?
It is the point that I shared earlier that I don't want to be a patient on my own table. I accepted that our sabotager was the judgment was not enough. If I don't do it, nobody else can do it. But what I realized is the job is still going to be there. Someone else could carry on the team. And I'm not the only person who can do it. It's about how to trust other people, delegate. And when I was sick so often, I was sick of being sick. And that's why we have to face the ugly truth is you can't do it all.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that. Something you just said though, like trusting to delegate, like trusting to allow other people to do these things. I feel like that's something that a lot of people struggle with. I know it's something that I've struggled with in my own life is letting go of control. And I'm just wondering, like what is it you look at in yourself when you're letting go of that control and giving other people delegating things to other people? What happens there for you?
So one of the biggest sabotager in many people is controlling, because we tied our performance into if we control the situation, we can measure out the steps, then we know things will done right, quote unquote, right? Mm-hmm. But we knew nothing can be really controlled. Your same pathway put into a different situation, we have to be able to pivot. So the good thing is if we can recognize we have the tendency, I knew that it's not us who's controlling It's the sabotager part of us. If we recognize that, we can immediately pivot into a positive mindset. And now we're not reacting, we're actually processing and addressing the situation.
Where do you see that sabotager coming from? Like, what is the source of that?
All of you guys have different sabotagers. Where that coming from is how you grew up, your own personal experiences.
Yeah, those stories, like that was actually something I really appreciated is reframing that question from what do you want to be when you grow up, or what do you want to do when you grow up, to what kind of lifestyle do you want to have. I think it was Stephen Levine who said, "Change the metaphor, change the world," and that to me is a perfect example of, literally just a simple shift in perspective can change so much for so many. One for me that I really appreciate is routine was a word I had a lot of trouble with. Like, routine was just boring and dull, but switching that to ceremony, like inviting sacredness into it, that shifted a lot for me. And now I have my morning ceremony and I have my evening ceremony. So when I wake up in the morning, I have my little ceremony. And when I go to bed at night, like, I have my little ceremony. And it's awesome because it wakes me up in the morning and it puts me right to sleep at night.
Right, because words are so powerful. It can either become something that drag you down, or it can be something that boosts you into the next phase, right? And then word of affirmation is one of your 5 love languages. And if people know if that part of you is something so crucial, and then it's not about gaining it from other people, but it's knowing how other people will react, so then you can be more of a same ground and same level and to communicate better.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Do you have a question, Abram?
Well, I was just kind of taking what you just said. It's like meeting others where they're at. The words are, we are the authors of our own context of how we see, we could see that I've used this example before, but like we could just a silly example, like it could be raining outside and it could be cold and I could be, I could be so upset. It's like I'm wet, it's raining, and I'm tired and it's cold. Or I could be a kid at a water park having the time of my life. And what basically our words and the way we communicate to ourselves, but also with others, really sets the context for our experience. And our words really are really powerful, in that regard, how we set up our own experiences. We could see it either way.
Exactly. And just like the kids in a water park example, you can either be mad against the world, thinking when you're mad, the world will give in. But no, you're just like killing yourself inside. And when the world doesn't even know about it.
Right. And you said something earlier, said it's about control. And I think what's interesting about control or wanting control, control is kind of an illusion. Like, I see it as an illusion, but I think what I see is control. Our need for control is based in fear, in survival. Like we need to part of ourselves needs to convince ourselves that we have control, and and that's ultimately acting out of fear, and that's kind of an illusory. It's not that state is disempowering for everything that we're up to, just showing up to ourselves.
Yeah, the really funny thing about that is where those fears come from. They come from, like you said, the stories that we hear growing up. They come from all the beliefs that we accept as true as we're growing up in this world.
Right.
At least that's where that was my experience with it. And I feel like that's something that Western society in general is not really aware of, that we grow up being told what the world is instead of being invited to discover it for ourselves. And so when we start going back, like you did with that moment where you had, do I really want to be a patient in my own hospital bed? And have that realization of, oh crap, like, no, I don't. And then having to examine everything that you went through that put you in that place and not taking care of yourself. Realizing that maybe the goals that other people said were good ideas weren't perfect for you, right?
Right. And I feel like we all went into a field because we love it, we were passionate about at some point, and we can still bring that passion back into it if you actually be more intentional about how you view yourself and then add into novelties into your current situation. But if we already got stuck in the way that we're doing, feel like we're no longer be able to accelerate, and then we can start feeling the dissatisfaction and things start spiral out of control. So how we view things, yes, it's so powerful.
Absolutely. What was it like for you growing up? Like, where did you get into the medical field from? Who, like, was that something you always wanted to do, or did that come from an outside influence and you kind of realized later that it wasn't really you?
Oh, it's still me.
It's
I
totally
still
you.
work powerfully in my full-time job right now. I think even I want to go downtime to part-time, I would not leave medicine. And that's exactly what I said is people got into the field mostly because they are passionate about it. They just derailed their ideas once they got in it for a few years or many years. And then they realize maybe it's not completely enjoyable because they start losing that initial drive, right? And so for me, medicine is always something secure, but human body is amazing. You can never learn enough about it. Medicine is a practice. Why do we even say that it's practice? But we have standard of care, but that standard of care also changes. And so every human is different depending on their comorbidity, age, all the other factors. So we do the best to offer options, but then it's also on the patient's choice on what to do next. And so that's fascinating. But what's not fascinating is allow us to get stuck, work nonstop, and then you're no longer taking care of your own well-being. You're only driving by your productivity or driving by just get things done. Then you take the fun out of it, take the enjoyment out of it. So if we can replace all the way that we do things, then yes, we'll be all more joyful no matter what career field you pick.
So I'm okay. So I'm a little bit confused, I guess. Are you speaking specifically about you and medicine, or are you talking about people in general?
I think it's both.
Because
You're asking, go ahead, sorry.
yeah, I didn't have that experience. Like the field that I initially picked was something that I never truly enjoyed. It's just something I happened to be really good at.
Okay.
And the realization, so I came to a completely different realization where I was miserable in my current career. I had there was no meaning there for me. That was the thing. It did not feel meaningful to me at all. And I had this kind of mini crisis where I had to stop and reassess and go, what am I really doing this for? And the answer that came back was I was doing it just for the money. Like it was the only thing that I knew how to do to get money. And I was absolutely convinced that I had to have money to survive. And it turned out neither one of those things were true. One, I don't need money to survive. There's plenty of it. Like I live years without money. And two, that's not the only way that I can get money. Like there are plenty of other options where just by being myself, I had that ability comes. Like people, when I am truly being me, others tend to find that valuable and just want to give me money, which I like still blows my mind today. But yeah, so that's just where I got confused because I never had that experience like you're talking about.
Right, but that's you.
Yeah, exactly. So
Many people actually got into medicine because they care about something to go into it. And so when you're talking about you start a career that you didn't even question yourself, and then it is difficult, isn't it? It's
yeah,
no
it
one
is.
else's fault,
Yeah, it's
but it's
totally
you
mine.
made the choice of not getting clarity before you step into something. And of course, it's okay years later to figure out I don't enjoy because I didn't even have the passion to go into it. So
Yeah.
then you have to make that pivot. But many people did start something because they knew that's something that they actually could potentially be both good at and make something out of themselves, right? And I'm sure even whatever job that you had before the career point, you enjoy at some level. Otherwise, you wouldn't even begin. Even just for money, you would have just enjoyed having money back then.
There were some things I enjoyed about it. Yeah, not very much, but yeah, there were a couple of things. So yeah, that feels pretty accurate.
Right. So at the end of the day, it's a boundary issue.
Exactly. Yeah, and I
Absolutely.
had none then, and that was it. Like it was that simple. I had no boundaries, and also like I had not practiced any level of self awareness at that point. Like I had no introspection. I had no like I was completely unaware in most everything that I did, and I was operating purely from the belief structure that I kind of took on as I was growing up.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you came out of that. You know, it's never too late to learn anything and grow from wherever you are at.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I've had my own existential inquiry in that same frame. Music is something I've made a career of for about 13 years, and I still love to play music, but I was stuck in a loop of building my own affirmation for being worthy based on what others thought of me. It was like a toxic codependent cycle. It's like, do you like me now? Do you like me now? And it was like, and it was something that I'm good at, and that's something I've done for a long time. But just because I'm good at it and I've been doing it for so long, that wasn't enough reason. And what I hear what you're saying about vocation or career, but like medicine inherently is an act of just being a part of the medical field is contribution, and that is one industry that is based on helping everybody, because we everybody wants the sick to be comfort, to have comfort, to be healed, to be cured, and the medical field is very much based on contribution. And that's, I really I appreciate you sharing your story and your wisdom and your insight. It's been really insightful, and I really appreciate you being with us, Sabrina.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Yeah, thank you, Sabrina. And Abram, what do you have for us next?
Well, thank you again, Sabrina. Thank you all for hanging out with us and tuning in. We here at the One Day Movement would love to have you share on the stage. We invite you and encourage you to join us. You can go to our website. You can see it on the bottom of the screen there. But yeah, if you have something you'd like to share, if you have a story, a testimony, a poem, a song, anything that just comes from the core of your own self-expression, something that just is authentically who you are, we want to see and experience that, because we all gain from when you share your stories, and we see ourselves in your stories, and it makes us share, and we learn more about ourselves through our neighbors, and that's what this space is for. So I want to invite you to join the stage with us. You also can go to our website. You have an opportunity to volunteer and join us on the front lines of this movement. And also as well, you have an opportunity to make a financial contribution. But thank you again for joining us. We do have one more guest with us today. I'm really excited to hear share. Wanda Brown is with us. Hello, Wanda.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us.
It is so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm just going to let you just jump right to it. Let's hear your share. The stage is yours, Wanda.
Sure. So I'm Wanda Brown. I am an author and a business advisor and a fierce resilience coach. I coach busy professional moms who secretly want to be entrepreneurs, how to reclaim their power and create a business that they love and one that loves them back. And so for the next kind of 15 minutes or so, I just want to share my story about how do you go through adversity and experience joy in the process. So my story begins like this. How long do I have to live? That was the first question I asked my doctor when he diagnosed me with stage 3 ovarian cancer. Just weeks before, I was living the dream. I was in my dream job as COO of a technology company. Before that, I had been VP of a retail company, VP of strategy for a retail company. And I had gone to the doctor just for what I thought were routine tests. And here I am sitting in his office on the exam table, looking at my doctor, asking, how long do I have to live? And, in this time of this COVID crisis, the world, it turns out, is asking some version of how long. It might be how long before things get back to normal and I can go back to work? How long before I can find a job? How long will my savings last? Right? How long before I can embrace my loved ones and give them a big hug and spend time with them? How long? But on this day, I was asking my own version of how long, and it was, how long do I have to live? And my doctor's response changed my life. He paused and he looked at me and he said, remember who you are, speak to your body and tell it to heal. And so that's what I did. I spoke to my body through the surgery, the chemo, the sickness, the weight loss. My weight dropped from 150 down to 110 on my 5'9" frame. I spoke God's word over my body. I spoke positive affirmations over my body, and I recovered. And I went back to doing life like I'd done it before, serving clients and spending time with my college sweetheart, my husband of 28 years, our 2 children, and just really dancing with all that life had to offer. And I remember thinking, cancer will never return to me again. That's behind me. Well, 4 years and 11 months later, my husband and I are with the oncologist and we hear these words, Miss Brown, the cancer is back and we recommend that you start chemo immediately. Well, in that moment, I tell you, I was so disappointed and I wrestled with the disappointment and the disconnect between doing everything that I thought I knew how to do to stay cancer free and the reality in that pathology report, the cancer is back. And perhaps some of you understand what I'm talking about, that disconnect between the dream and reality. Maybe you worked really, really hard to start that business. And because of COVID-19 and the quarantine, your business has failed. You've had to lay off a lot of employees. Or maybe you had that dream to go back to school or to get a dream job. And now that's in limbo, right? There's a disconnect between the dream and reality. And for me, the turning point really came when I heard one day in my spirit, rest. And rest means to be supported by something in a way that helps you stay in position. And I knew for me, I had to stay in a position of joy and hope and full expectation that I would not only survive cancer again, but that I would thrive on the other side. And this process of resting, it really allowed me to get quiet. And in that quiet, in that meditation, what I began to really contemplate was perhaps the obstacle, the adversity is paving the way to something that's bigger than me. Perhaps there's a lesson in the obstacle, a lesson in the adversity, where it's not just happening to me, as real as as the whole experience was, but perhaps it was also happening for me. And in that process of resting and really wrestling with this question, could it be happening for me? I developed really sort of a 4-step framework that allowed me to just have peace and actually experience joy as I went through the adversity. And that framework really uses four pillars. And those pillars use the acronym REST, REST. So the R is remember how powerful we are. That we can't always circumvent life's challenges, no matter how painful they are. And certainly as a collective planet, we are experiencing that together, right? But our power comes in choosing the right words, the right thoughts, our identity and our perspective. We get to choose the thoughts that we meditate on over and over and over as we go through adversity. We choose the words, and they can be words of power or they can be words of fear, but we get to choose those words. Those are things that we can control when we go through. We even control our identity. When I was going through cancer, people just naturally would ask, Wanda, how are you doing? And in that moment, I would always say, I am a healed person who's doing everything that I know how to do to get healthy and to stay healthy and to protect my health. I am not a sick person who's trying to get well. And I don't know what you're going through right now, but I'm going to encourage you to choose your own identity. This is your story. You get to choose whether or not you're the hero or the victim of your story. And I promise you, if you don't choose your identity, the world will choose it for you. So be mindful. Our perspective is either our power or our prison. So make it your power. So that's R. The E. The E is for expand. When we're going through, we have to expand our perspective and realize that what we're going through is not just about us, but other people can be served by supporting us through our adversity. Now, I know you say, okay, that how can that be? But when we create space for the right people to show up and walk alongside us as we're going through, they get to show up and bring their skills and their talents. They get to practice compassion and empathy for another person. And at the same time, we are served as well. So I know the world is telling most of us, hey, focus on likes and followers and views. But I'm encouraging you, I'm inviting you to be very intentional about the people that you invite to show up in your space and walk alongside you. Whether or not you're going through adversity or just life in general, be intentional about the people that you invite to show up. We were designed to do life together, not alone. So that's E. The S is for self-care. Sabrina talked about self-care just a moment ago. And so when you're going through life and especially adversity, we have to think about our self-care from a 360-degree perspective. So it's about our physical, our mental, our spiritual, our financial, and of course, our relational, our relationship self-care. And so I want to talk about a really, really sort of seemingly tiny part of our self-care, which is our voice. It's no surprise that when I was faced with the question, asking my doctor, how long do I have to live? The first place he went to, he didn't give me Google's answer, because that would have been devastating. He went right to that seemingly small thing, which is my voice, my spoken word. And his guidance let me know that our spoken word is tied to our healing. It's tied to the relationships and the health of our relationships. Our spoken word is tied to our dreams and the dreams of others. There is a saying that when we show up boldly in a space and when we share our brilliance, when we share our point of view, what we're actually doing is creating a legacy. We're actually creating space. When we're using our voice, we're actually creating space for those who will come behind us to show up and speak their truth and their voice and their brilliance. So really fall in love with your voice, be bold, express yourself, and just create that space, not only for yourself and your healing and your future, but for those that will come behind you. So that's S. And the last is T, take action. When I was going through my own adversity, I had to choose a dream that would give my life purpose and then take action to bring it to pass. A lot of times when I was going through cancer and treatments, and perhaps you're going through something else, but when you're going through sickness, there are times when I know for me, I just wanted to stay in the bed, lights out, blinds closed, just stay in the bed, just from the sickness. But I decided to write a book. And that book is called Rest is Healing for the Soul. It's meditations to win and thrive in the battle for your health. And that book allowed me to tell not only my story in terms of going through cancer and the lessons that I learned, but I invited 20 other women to show up and tell their story about going through cancer or chronic illness. And the beautiful thing was, each of them shared their own lesson, their own experience, and it created this web of just beautiful, holistic healing, and really a gift. And so, in so many ways, the book called to me as much as I was calling for it, but it gave me purpose as I was going through my adversity. So that's T. And just in wrapping up, I don't know what you're going through. Maybe for some of you, you're going through a health crisis like I was, or maybe what you're going through has nothing to do with your health, but it's something that's robbing you of your joy and your hope. Regardless of where you are on that spectrum, I encourage you to put these 4 principles into practice. REST. They made a huge difference for me, and I know they'll make a difference for you. As I reflect back on that first question that I asked my doctor, how long do I have to live? What I learned after going through cancer and healing twice is, it's not about how long we have to live, but it's what will we do in the time that we are given. So thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Wanda. That you have such an inspirational story, and it's amazing that what you've overcome twice, and what you have to show and to share with that experience. That it's so amazing. And one thing that really stuck with me is what your doctor said to you when you asked that question. And I think that's amazing that he said, like, remember who you are. Like, listen to your, tell your body that we're gonna heal, and that is amazing. Who's your doctor? I want to. That's amazing.
Yes, Dr. Cantoria, top gynecological oncologist. He's a surgeon, one of the best, and I tell you that it amazes me that he had the wherewithal to pause and put it back on me. He was saying, we're going to do all that we can do to help you heal, but you have a responsibility, Wanda, as he was speaking to me. And so when he said, speak to your body and tell it to heal, I thought that was powerful, and I will never forget it.
Yeah. I can we get him as a teacher in all medical schools?
Seriously.
Powerful.
So real quick, just to make sure I remember all 4 of them. Remember our own power, expand, self-care, and then
take action.
Take action, of course. The one thing I always have trouble with. Of course, that's the one I can't remember. So that's kind of amazing. And I love that you actually paralleled it with what we're going through in the world today with this pandemic. And I see a lot of parallels in that as well, too. In my own experience and in other experiences, I really see how the micro, the inner, the small, the me is a reflection of the macro, the big, the world at large, right? And to go through cancer once and then go right back to where you were and still be convinced that, this is what I'm supposed to, this is it, and then hit it again. And then realize, oh man, okay, something's got to change. And to drop into that quiet place. I feel like that is the invitation that this pandemic is offering right now, is to drop into that quiet place like you did. And I had this really weird feeling that if humanity doesn't do that, then we're going to get hit again.
Matthew, so true. That is the gift of this pandemic, if I can be so bold as to say that.
Yeah.
This opportunity to be in a quiet place, to reconnect with what's important in life, relationships. I mean, families are spending more time together than ever before. My husband went to Walmart to buy a Monopoly game, and they were all sold out. Now, this is May, not December, right? But it's that little sign to say that people are reconnecting like never before. And so, what a gift we've been given.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. And I say be bolder, say it louder.
Yes.
Share it with everybody.
Right.
Yes,
right.
yes.
Yeah, it really does. I definitely see the connection with the opportunity, and I feel like with this social separation, we're everyone's forced to look in the mirror, because we have this time to ourselves, because we're forced to be in a space to look in the mirror, and some of us like what we see in the mirror, some of us don't, but it's what's amazing when I see the opportunity is like obviously across the world, like pollution is clearing, like you can see the Himalayas for the first time in like 30 years, like all these, like Los Angeles has like no smog, which I used to live there. That's like unheard of. And like, I can't imagine us going back, like, once things start to level out, whatever that looks like, I can't imagine us going back and, well, let's do that again. Let's cover up the Himalayas so we can't see them. Let's get this city smoggy again. Like, I feel we're forced to look at ourselves. It's like, how did we get here? How did we end up here? What have we been avoiding and ignoring to get to this point in the first place? And I think it's a beautiful opportunity for us as individuals to see ourselves, but also as a collective, just like there's so much possibility when we actually show up. And like you did when you went through your cancer scare 2 times, like you chose your words. You didn't let a diagnosis bring you down. It's like, well, I guess I'll just give up and I'm just going to fall on the floor and give up. Like, you chose, and you remembered who you were beyond your body, and you kind of, and that's amazing, that how our mindset and our relationship with our word, with ourselves, how much power that has. And like, and that's one person. And when we do that as individuals and we show up with to each other, that's when magic happens. Like then that's what this opportunity is. We can actually create beautiful things from this tragic, from the tragedy and the suffering in the world. There's an opportunity for us to show up to ourselves and to one another and our neighbors and our communities, and be stronger and create a more beautiful world because we say so.
Yeah, Abram, I think that's so powerful. There's a saying that says we speak worlds into existence, and then we live inside those worlds. Like our speaking is so powerful, and that's why, whether you're sick or whatever you're going through, we have the power to reframe whatever we're saying, right, and then live inside of that. Because when we don't, the world is waiting to give us the words, the definition, their perspective that defines whatever we're going through. So I love what you're saying, and I totally agree. We are living a collective experience as we're all going through COVID. But the reality was we were always living a collective experience. We just weren't present to it. COVID-19 has brought us the gift of awareness. We were always living together. We were always connected. What was happening in China was always connected to what we're doing here. And God, universe, whatever you believe in, has just allowed us to get that point very quickly and somewhat painfully.
Yeah.
Right.
And necessarily, I feel like, I think it was Sadhguru who said, meditation is the experience of recognizing that only half of your lungs are in your body and that the trees are the other half.
Oh, that's beautiful. Wow.
And that's it, right? Like, there is no I without the totality of this experience. It can't exist.
Yes. Cannot exist.
It cannot exist. And I love these conversations. I really do.
I do. This is so good.
Yeah, there was something though I wanted to ask, and let me see if I can pivot back to it. When you got the second diagnosis, like, so how long ago was that, first of all?
How long?
Yeah,
So it was
how long
about
have you been
4 years.
cancer-free?
Oh, so let's see here. I finished chemo in November of 2019.
Okay.
I just had my my final scans February the 5th, 14th, 15th, whichever one was Valentine's Day. Every day with my honey is Valentine's Day, so I lose the date, but February 15th or so, I got my final scan. So yes, this is very, very, very recent.
Okay, so a little bit over a year now that you've been technically in remission. Is that how it is? That how it is, or are you actually clear?
Yeah, so it hasn't been a year. I'm saying November 2019. So let's see here: November,
okay.
December, January, February, March, April, May, June. Yeah. So just maybe 4 months or so, 5 months.
So really recent.
Wow.
Wow. And how long was the journey this time? So from the time you got diagnosed until you actually were clear?
Yeah, so I spent almost all of last year in some form of surgery. Then there were complications after the surgery, and then chemo for 6 months.
Wow.
Wow.
Was that more or less time than the first time? I feel like I'm getting somewhere here, but I'm not sure exactly where yet. So
no, that's okay. Because what I'm hoping is maybe if there's a woman that's listening who this could serve as we're talking about just the details. But so it was longer because the way they administered the chemo the first time was just different. So I got very strong chemo. I got it every single week for 16 weeks altogether. And that was extraordinarily difficult. And nearly 5 years later, the way they administered the chemo was different. So I was able to get more breaks, but it was stretched out over a longer period of time.
Gotcha. Okay. This may sound like a really weird question, but it's the one that's present right now, so I'm going to go with it.
Sure.
Do you feel like, in knowing your body now, knowing everything you've learned about your body, and recognizing that hindsight is 2020, like there's no way you could have known this then necessarily, but do you feel like you actually needed the chemo?
You know what? I am not going to second guess the decision to get chemo. I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still here. And so if you were to look up ovarian cancer, which still is considered a rare cancer, more percentage-wise, more women die from ovarian cancer than breast cancer. And so for me, the surgery and the chemo was the right decision because I'm still here. Other people may make different choices, and
I feel like that was actually the question I was asking. So thank you. Like that was like, did it feel appropriate for you? Was the big question. Yeah.
Yes, it felt appropriate for me, and in fact, one of my doctors. So I ended up switching doctors, but the doctor that I went to the second time actually wanted to do things differently. So he actually wanted me to go right into chemo. So that's what he said. Hey, we want you to go into chemo immediately. And I actually reflected on the success of the sort of protocol that they used the first time. And I said, nope, I want to go through surgery and then the chemo, like in that order, but not leave the mass in and just do chemo. And so I found a doctor who would listen to the way I wanted to do it because it's my health, my approach. The doctors they bring their expertise, but I am always the person, that's in charge because it's my body.
Yeah, thank you. That's where I was trying to get to right there. and this is something that I see a lot today in the discussion about the pandemic, and is it this or is it that, or is it a hoax? There's so much data being put out there. And I can only imagine what situation you were in when you were like having to talk to these doctors and research everything. I find that trusting that, how do I want to say this? Trusting that bigger me, that inner guide, that higher self. Like, yeah, take all the perspective, but use this to filter it. And
Right.
that's what I was wondering, is if the second time around, if that was where you were at with it. And yeah, it sounds like you were. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's so important that quiet, that meditation, that prayer, and then the confidence. Because at the end of the day, after the meditation and the prayer, right, you've got to make a decision. Matthew, to your point, you got to take action.
Yeah.
And so having the confidence to take action and then be okay with it, right? Not at some point you can't second guess yourself, right? You've got to set sail in a direction and then be okay with it.
Yeah, and for me, that's where it comes back to trust. Like just trusting that that life will work, like that it will all work out in the end.
Yeah.
And that working out in the end may be me dying, but me dying may actually lead to a whole nother set of lessons for the people I leave behind that they never could have experienced without my death. So
Yeah.
like having that really big perspective,
Yes, yes. You know what? Here's the thing. And that's why it kind of goes back to that question, how long do I have to live? Which was the question I asked the first time. And by the time I had gone through it the second time, it's not how long we have to live, it's what do we do in the time that we're given,
Yeah.
right? Because the reality is the contract that we have as human beings is that no one gets out of this thing alive, like no one.
Yeah.
And so, the focus on the how long is just where I was at the time. But the more mature me, the more me that's just connected to God and purpose and contribution while I'm here, that me is more about focused on what am I going to do? How am I spending the time? How am I leaving people that I come in contact with, right? Like how are they left because of their connection with me for even a moment in time? I'm very present to that.
Yeah, I feel like that goes back to what we were talking about before the show started, making that choice.
Yeah.
Like that's where you made the choice to live, I feel like.
Right. I was just going to say that it goes back to that choice, and it's like back to kind of what Sabrina was saying. It's letting go of that control. We have an illusion that we have control, but we make a choice with our, to live. We make a choice to live by choice, and and you could have gone the other direction. And it's like, well, look at my timeline. I got 4 months, 29 days, 32 seconds. Like you could have just watched the clock and just, that probably the choice to just to live and alleviate control is what gave freedom, is what it sounds like. And this kind of connects the dots. I've had a lot of spiritual growth in the last, year and a half, 2 years. And I was kind of, I had nothing near as a situation with dealing with cancer, but I was kind of dealing with my own existential inquiry about who am I? Why should I? Like, who am I? Why am I? And why bother? Like, why even choose to wake up in the morning? And it was like, and it was with an identity. I had an awakening of sorts where it was like, for once I saw the story in my head. I saw the ego of my own lack. I saw, whether it's your flesh, your ego, your id, your shadow, depending which perspective you're coming from. It's when I was just seeing it so clearly. It's like, that's not me. These thoughts aren't me. These feelings aren't me. These fears aren't me.
Yeah.
These memories aren't me. And I kept on like tearing away. It's like, none of these things are me. And then it kind of like, it hit me. I experienced myself. I chose to be here right now. Everything is in its right place. There's nothing anyone can do to take away the peace that's already within me. And I wrote this very short poem that kind of, and I'll share it with you real quick, because it kept clicking, popping in my head, and I wanted to share this. This kind of goes on the vein of what you're saying. This poem goes this way. It says, "Today is the day. Instead of playing it safe, I can enter into that space to be willing to face the chaos in front of my face. God is giving me the grace. All the pain and disgrace goes away, and I can't help but embrace the possibility and fill in that page to create a reality I never knew could take place."
Wow.
Mhm.
Abram, as a gift to me, would you send that to me? I would
I would
love
love
that.
to.
And of course, I love that.
Well, I'm
It so
glad you
speaks.
like it.
I got chills as you were reading it.
I can't even take credit for it. It came out. It was just like, I have a choice right now. Today is the day. Honestly, this is what one day is. It's one day. We always say this. One day is today. And it's not sometime in the future. Sometime I'll do this, or sometime I'll do that. It's like right now, if we just choose to be and see ourselves and the world and the experience of the world as how it really is, we don't have to have control. We don't have to be fearful and try to have survival. We are open to abundance, to an expansive universe of just infinity. It's just there's everything we have. And when we sit in that space, that opens up possibility that we don't even know is like, it's the possibility of possibility. It's usually like what happens in life is not what we expected. It's something that happens. We don't like the most impactful things in life aren't the things that we plan on, the things that happen while we're aiming towards the things we plan on. And that's what opens up when we live in the present moment. We don't have to be afraid of what happens tomorrow or hold on to what happened in the past. We are open to a flowing present moment. It's always right now. And when we live in that opens up the possibility of something we never expected that could actually open up another door that we could experience, beauty and wonder in ways that we never even knew were possible. And that's what drives me. And your whole story is so inspiring. And it's such a gift and a pleasure to have you and Sabrina as well, having you both share with us today. It's been so awesome. I hope you'll both come back to share with us again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Abram. Thank you, Matthew, for just creating this platform for people just to show up and share. What an amazing gift to the universe that you guys are providing. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny. Recently, I don't have reasons for doing anything. I find the reasons come later. So when Abram approached me about creating this, it was just my heart said yes. That's all that mattered. And it's like these stories, these moments, this has become the reason.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
It was my honor. My honor.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been such amazing hearing you share. It's been wow. That I feel like I'm still kind of coming down just from this whole conversation. So.
Well, let's bring Sabrina back in real quick.
Yeah.
Hi, Sabrina. Welcome back.
Hi guys. Thanks for chatting.
Yeah.
And thanks, Promise, for sharing your beautiful story and your tips.
Yes, and you too, Sabrina. Sabrina's amazing. Toastmaster winner.
I just heard about that the other day. I didn't even know what a Toastmaster was until the other day. So I know that now. Congratulations.
You're welcome to join our virtual event. I run them on Thursday at noon.
Oh, nice.
Central Time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we get that link from you? I'll post it in the is it okay to post that on Facebook?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Yeah, I would love that. I'll put that in the comments. And then just before we roll out, are there any other questions? Any just insights, Sabrina, you might have had about what we were talking about, or?
I think you guys cover a lot, right? And I think the only insight really for most of the time I give is you have to say no to almost everything so you can say heck yes to the only thing that truly matters.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Love it.
That's great. I really again I thank you both so much for sharing your stories and just allowing this space to be something that we can all gain from, and this is why we do it, is, you know, for just like for you both, you know, you sharing it just makes it worth it. This has been an amazing conversation, and it's been amazing to hear and listen to just your stories, and it just gives me a drive, and I can't wait to have you back and have you share some more. And again, to all our viewers watching, thank you so much for hanging out with us and tuning in. You know, we here at the One Day Movement, you know, we're committed to, we're standing for a world that works for us all. You know, we want this world that we all have a unique gift, a unique passion, gift, talent that we all benefit from. And if we all show up, we can create beautiful things together. And I'll share with you our mission. Our One Day mission is bringing you and I and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. That's why we're here, and that's why we would love for you to come and share with us on the stage. That's what this is, your platform. It's not my platform, it's yours. And that's why we're here. I'm here for you, and we're here to share your stories that empower us all. And thank you all so much again. I didn't tell you both, Sabrina and Wanda, so we've been doing this new thing where we're asking our guests to say our one day is today catchphrase. And basically, to give a little context, you know, one day is not, you know, a lot of times people will say the phrase one day like it's something in the distant future, like one day we'll have peace, or one day this will happen, or one day that'll happen. And the point of one day is it's not a someday, maybe, but not now experience. It is a right now experience. We create the one day of the future right now. And that's why we're doing this. And that's what this format and this forum is so powerful, to remind ourselves every day we have the power to create a beautiful future, because that's what our word is for. That's why we're here, is to contribute and make a beautiful world for us all. And I really appreciate, but I invite you to join us. You know, we are here together to create a better world. And but that's why we say, and this is the cue, one, two, three. One day is
today.
You got it. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you again, Wanda and Sabrina. We look forward to having you back soon. As to all of you at home, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Love you all.
See you later. Bye.